for a demo?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Great. Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Steven.
I can't complain.
Okay.
Spent too much money. You know, we had our ocean.
As someone who gets paid, to preach based in part on that line, I'm thrilled. I think that's great.
Reverend Benjamin, this is 5 minutes slow, so I should
let's,
probably start pretty soon.
Yeah, go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
The mouse slowed down. Didn't feed the cheese last night.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Gary Simon, and I'm your worship associate this morning. Would everybody please rise and body your spirit? Join us in singing hymn number 1, You Know, in the gray hymnal. May nothing evil cross this door.
name is Nora Mulligan, and I am the Vice President of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory upon which our church building sits as the ancestral homelands of the Muncie, Lenape, and Wappinger people. There are a few announcements. Get a jump on the holiday season this year. Great way to manage your finances and make grocery shopping more convenient is to buy grocery cards. The congregation earns 5% of the cost of the card when you pay face value. Only a few congregants help us fundraise this way, so we decided to make a big push this fall. We carry ShopRite and Stop and Shop cards in $100 denominations. Make it simple. Just email Terry Lucan at terrylucan1969@gmail.com. Let her know which store and how many cards you'd like to buy. She'll also take orders on Sundays. Cards will be delivered to you on Sunday, November 24th. All you have to do is bring a check. Let us all help with this and see if we can raise some righteous funds for the congregation. We all eat, so why not share the funds with our beloved community? Safe Congregation Team is offering a brief first aid training after the service on Sunday, November 3rd. That's next Sunday. Stick around after coffee hour to learn some basic first aid and enjoy a pizza lunch in the fellowship hall. Thanks to Terry Lucan for instructing us. Please reply to RSVP to Margie Kemper at gmail.com by October 30th, Wednesday, so we have an accurate count for our food order. As many of you know, the annual fundraiser and auction was held here last night. We had a great turnout, terrific decorations, and spirited bidding. I do not have a number yet. Anybody who saw me last night hurriedly writing numbers on the back of a piece of paper, no, we're not there yet. When we have a final amount of how much we raised, I will put it in the e-news, and everybody will know. I think we did very well. I want to thank the Arts Committee for the wonderful decorations and the preparation. I want to thank everybody who brought food and desserts. It was great. Thank you. I want to thank Gil for doing the bartending. I want to thank our own Gary Simon for doing the auctioneering. A great time was had by all, and there are a few items still available. We'll post them in the e-news, and thank you, everybody. Are you interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism in our congregation? Join our UU 101 workshop next Sunday after service. UU 101 can be a standalone experience or part of your pathway to membership. RSVP with Reverend Daniel or with the office. And then, special announcement from Luke.
Hello, everyone. So I am in a production of Les Mis that's going to be performing at the Irvington Town Theater. It's with Broadway Training Center of Westchester, which is a high school level ensemble with various kids from different high schools and some kids that are younger. And we're performing November 22nd, 23rd, and 4th. I have a poster on the bulletin boards with a QR code, and I think it's being put on the e-news.
Yes.
And I'm going to sing one of my songs next weekend here. And also I'm playing Marius, so thank you.
For the most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you're present in the sanctuary, please join us for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall. If you're watching the live stream, the link for our Zoom hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you're just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us at uucroton@gmail.com with your name, and we'll make sure you're added to our e-news list. Also, please remember to silence your cell phones at this time. Once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
I think most, if not all of you, know our guest preacher today. He's been with us many times, and we're so happy to have him joining us again today. Benjamin Van Dyne is a PhD candidate in theology at Fordham University. His work focuses on the interconnections between evolving concepts of race, personhood, and death. He also teaches undergraduate classes in religion and theology and serves on the coordinating committee for the labor union of Fordham's graduate workers. He grew up in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, Virginia, and remains connected with local church communities. He lives in the Bronx with his 2 children.
Y'all are in a clappy mood this morning. I like that. It's always a great relief when somebody says they know me well and then immediately follow it up with, and we like him, and I'm glad to have him, notwithstanding the knowing me well. So, well, good morning. Again, it's good to see all of you. Our invocation this morning are words from Kenneth Patton. We arrive out of many singular rows, walking over the branching streets. We come to be assured that our siblings surround us. We come to restore their images on our eyes. We enlarge our voices in common speaking and singing. We try again that solitude found in the midst of those who with us seek their hidden reckonings. Our eyes reclaim the remembered faces. Their voices stir the surrounding air. The warmth of their hands assures us, and the gladness of our spoken names. This is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies in the houses of worship. It is good to be with one another. And now I'd like to invite the children to go ring our bell. Is there a grown-up that's going to help them ring the bell? An almost grown-up who's going to help them ring the bell. And so if you're not going to ring the bell, it's 8 times, I think, right? 1 for each of our principals. So can you all help me count here? Let's see if we can get this right. So stick up a hand. Oh boy. Let's all count. This is the big test. Can we count to 8?
Forwards. It's a double.
There's double.
Yep, that's it.
8 double taps.
Counting is hard.
Says the musician.
Yeah.
Today's chalice tonight. By Mark Bellatini, inspired by David Risha. I am a part of history. I am connected to a family and forebears. I am a part of humanity. I am heir to all that humans have brought to the world. I am part of nature. I am what the stars are. Now, if you would please join me in saying our unison affirmation, which is printed in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice.
Kids, I know you just sat down. But if you are a kid or a kid at heart or just really immature, if you would want to come up to the front here for our Time for All Ages. Immature folks, very mature children, regular children.
Means everybody.
All right, so today we're talking about being ready. We're not ready for that. We're not. We're talking about being ready. And there's a lot that goes in to getting ready for something like this. It takes like so many papers, and it takes a lot of like things. I have to like charge my iPad, and it takes like, what does it say? Can you read that? Don't forget the time for all agents. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of preparation that it takes to be ready for something like this. And this week, my kids are not here today, but we spent a lot of time getting ready for Halloween because they decided they want to be Calvin and Hobbes, which is like a boy and a stuffed tiger. And the boy just needs like a red t-shirt, but the tiger needs like a whole tiger, so that took a lot of preparation. Are you guys doing Halloween? You dressing up? What are y'all gonna be? What are you gonna be? Hit me with that one more time.
I'm gonna be red from the Descendants Rise of Red movie.
From the Descendants Rise of Red movie. Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up. What are you gonna be?
I'm gonna be a bat.
You're gonna be a bat? That's terrifying. What are you gonna be?
Just some monster thing with 2 arms.
Some monster thing with the terrifying number of arms of 2.
I mean 3.
With 3 terrifying arms. What about you?
I'm gonna be a pirate.
You're gonna be a pirate. All right, so it sounds like you all have something you're getting ready for, right? You have to get a whole nother arm. You have to get some wings, pirate stuff, and I don't know what yours is, so I don't know. But you have to get ready, right? You have to get some stuff together. What does it take to get ready for Halloween? What does it take?
You have to get the costumes and the candy ready.
Get the costumes and the candy ready. Like what does your costume involve? What do you have to do for your costume?
Well, it involves a lot of sewing and cutting up my innocent shirts.
The cutting up your innocent shirts. And now I've got you committed to a whole other arm, so that's going to be a thing. Yeah. Do you do the sewing, or does somebody else do the sewing?
I don't know how to sew at all.
You don't know how to sew at all.
So I just took a random gray shirt and cut a hole in it and sewed glue to the other arm.
Who's doing the sewing?
My mom.
Your mom
It's
is.
more cutting than sewing.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it takes other people to be ready for things, right? And what if you go out there, you went trick-or-treating? All right, so what do other people need to be ready for?
Us.
Us? What does that mean? How do they need to be ready?
They need to get candy and
Turn on the lights.
or turn off their lights if they don't want to deal with
Pirates. And,
fans of annoying children asking them.
yeah. Well, okay. We're not. We went over this like 4 times. We're not ready. You might be ready, but we're not ready. Okay. We should have practiced more. Sorry, guys. Well, so we're going to talk a little bit more in here about getting ready, but what happens if something happens and you're not ready for it? What do you do? Yeah.
You just grab your pillowcase and go out with no costume.
You go grab your pillowcase and you go out with no costume. So you kind of have to improvise, right? You could yell at Blake. That's the other thing you could do. But that's probably not the right way to treat other people, right? You just kind of got to move quickly and be ready to improvise. Okay. Well, I'm feeling ready for the next step here, which is you guys going out to do some RE stuff and for us to keep doing our grown-up stuff in here. Cool. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? Okay, let's go now in peace. Go now in peace.
I wasn't ready for that. Wonderful. We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. As we begin, we know that there are both great sorrows and great joys in our world that must be acknowledged as well. We light our first candle to honor those in pain, victims of violence and war and oppression all around the world. We light a second candle because we understand that amidst all that pain, there is also celebration and joy in our world. We honor that joy. We honor that joy and sorrow are woven together. For some of us here today, this has been a week of life-changing joy that needs to be lifted up in this worship. For others, this has been a time of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden lighter. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to come forward to light a candle, or for me to light a candle for you, and to briefly tell us of your joy or sorrow. You may also raise your hand in silent acknowledgement of your joys and sorrows, and I'll light a candle for you. Please. Anyone? Come on up.
Good morning. I'm Betsy. Thank you for tolerating my expression of the season. It happens every year. I have no control over it. It just happens. Anyway, this is mostly joy, great joy. I had the privilege of being with 3 different people in my life who lived so far away, and they were all there. I went to Colorado for 5 days, and when I came home, I had 2 different sets of visitors from New Mexico who I've known for decades and decades. One of whom is one of my oldest friends. We've known each other since we were in our early 20s. And the flip side is to see her. She's suffering greatly, and she's not in great shape. And it was hard to be there for myself and see her, but I also know that we just lifted each other up so much and so powerfully, and I was so blessed to be able to see her and be with her. So, thanks.
So I have a joy that someone came here last week. I think it was Thursday. We were working, setting up. She came in tears and asked if she could sit in the sanctuary. And Jane and I came out to talk to her when we heard she had been a member 7 years ago. In talking to her, she told us why she was in tears. She wrote it down, and I'd like to read it to you. Hello, my name is Christine. My wife and I were members of the congregation when we had our first child 10 years ago. My 2 kids and I are looking for a 2-bedroom home in the Croton or Hen Hood School District. I am on a fixed income due to a disability and hoping for a reasonable rent. I have experience as a teacher, carpenter, landlord, painter, babysitter, she's one of us, business owner, banker, math and economics tutor and caregiver to a family member with dementia. If you know of someone who may be able to help us, and in turn, who I can help, please reach out. I have her name and her phone number, and I will hang it on the bulletin board in Fellowship Hall.
Caroline Staples. This is joy and sorrow. I was here on a visit until a couple of days from now, when I'll be heading back to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to be with my daughter's family, and we'll be back in January. There was something really, I know, that next week you have the Unitarian workshop. Since I won't be here, I want to say now that this little Unitarian fact. Charles Darwin's grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, called Unitarianism a featherbed to catch a falling Christian. I was going to say a whole lot more, but never mind. It's been wonderful being here.
I'm Tara Greenway. This is such a joy. You guys have heard me talking about my sister-in-law with early onset Parkinson's, and they finally figured out what medication was not good and what medication was good. And she's doing not just well, but she's back to who she is. And I wasn't quite sure, because things were so difficult for so long, and sometimes your brain can come back from something, and sometimes it cannot come back all the way. But I'm actually leading a workshop, and I love that catching a featherbed comment, because it kind of leads to this. So I'm leading this free workshop online because it's from my heart, and it's called Redefine the Divine, Losing Your Religion. And my sister-in-law is a professor of theology, but very liberal. And I thought, Cindy's the person to talk to about this. But is she Cindy? And I arranged a time to talk with her yesterday, and was like prepared, like it might work, it might kind of work, it might not work, it might, and it was, she was herself, and she's just the most intelligent person I've ever talked with, and definitely the right person for me to bounce ideas off of. We both grew up the same way, very evangelical Christian, and have come far from that, much to the dismay of our families and old friends. So I know I've said before, like, oh, she's getting better, you know, and she still has Parkinson's, by the way, but she's back to herself, and it's a joy, and it's also kind of a lesson of just persistence. I mean, you try and you try and you try and you try, and I think we have to celebrate small or medium or big wins. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Susie, and I just wanted to thank Nora. So rather than have her announce everything about the auction, she did a wonderful job, and we're really grateful.
I lit one more candle, actually two, and I placed the candle lighting candle in there also, for all the joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed, and for those outside of our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and be received with love.
invite you now into a spirit of meditation and prayer, not just in your brains, but in your body. So feel free to settle into your seat. Find a way of sitting that is relaxed, but not, sleepy. Feet on the ground, if they reach. Take a breath. Let it go. Take another breath. Let it go. And I'm going to say a few words and we'll have a few moments of silence, but this is very important. Don't stop breathing in and out just because I stopped saying it. So breathe in. And breathe out. We have these words from Robert Walsh. When the great plates slip and the earth shivers, and the flaw is seen to lie in what you trusted most, look not to more solidity, to weighty slabs of concrete poured, or strength of cantilevered beam, to save the fractured order. Trust more the tensile strands of love that bend and stretch, to hold you in the web of life that's often torn, but always healing. The shifting life, they all proceed from love, the ground on which we walk together.
Today's reading is from the Hebrew Bible, attributed to prophet Isaiah. In days to come, the mountain of God's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction, and the word of God from Jerusalem. God shall judge between the nations, and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. please join us in singing hymn number 139, the gray hymnal, Wonders Still the World Shall Witness, number 139.
Well, good morning again. It's nice to see so many familiar faces and some new ones. I am one of those people who once every 4 years finds myself an avid devotee of a sport I had forgotten about since the last Olympics. And I honestly don't remember the sports from like 3 months ago that I spent all that time watching. But I do remember being astonished at the kind of readiness that these athletes had. People whose whole lives have been oriented toward being the best in the world, literally the best in the world, at an extremely particular thing. Their readiness is about the work they have done physically and mentally, and in some cases, the work they have done collectively as a team. And it's also about the rules of the game. What a particular event asks a person to do physically and mentally and collectively depends a lot on what exactly is being asked, on what is in and out of bounds. There's no point in conditioning yourself to do a triple flip if your sport is the shot put. For the rest of us, being ready usually doesn't look like that. We may have extraordinary discipline, natural talent, even a trustworthy team, but we can't condition ourselves so perfectly for a single moment because the rules of life are just not terribly clear. So as much fun as it might be to imagine myself as the Katie Ledecky of whatever it is I do, for someone like me, and maybe for someone like you, being ready is something kind of different. So this morning, I want to offer 3 images to help us think that through. A labor union, a mountain, and a thief. Since I last saw you, I started a full-time job as an organizer for the labor union of Connecticut State University's faculty. And so I am having lots and lots of conversations every week with people new to labor unions about what a labor union is. And the answer to this is actually maybe not as simple as you might think, because a labor union is a few different things. In the United States, at least, it's a mechanism that provides specific legal protections to workers. A labor union is also an institution with boards and budgets and directors and employees that enters into contracts with employers. But most fundamentally, a labor union is a network of relationships, some organic, some built very much on purpose, that make it possible for people to act in solidarity together, to make real the old labor adage that an injury to one is an injury to all. So, a labor union is legal protection, an institution, a network of relationships. That's what I tell people at work. But the reality is that if a labor union is just legal protection, the folks up there at the top of the mountain can, and do, change and undermine that. They change the rules for organizing and for staying organized. If a labor union is just an institution, then it's subject to all the capture and pathologies that can happen to any institution. But the network of relationships, that belongs to the workers. There used to be no laws protecting unions. There didn't used to be big national institutional unions. There was just that network of relationships that belonged to the workers, and nobody can take that away. This isn't just an abstraction. I work for a labor union of public sector workers whose membership has been diminished by the 2018 Supreme Court decision known as Janus, which makes it possible for public employees to receive every benefit of being in the union without paying any dues. And the membership of the labor union I work for, like many public sector unions, has dropped because there's no reason not to freeload. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn with my own union leadership if I say that if the relationships among employees at Connecticut State University had been stronger, not as many people would have wanted to freeload and make their colleagues pay their way. It was as though we in the union had trained for a triple flip, and all of a sudden we were shot putting. The second image is a mountaintop. In the book of Isaiah, in this part that we had read for us this morning, there's an image of a mountain as the place from which salvation will come. Sometimes that passage from Isaiah is read at Christmas because it's seen as a prophecy of the coming of Jesus, that Jesus is the one coming down from the mountain to offer salvation. The prophet Isaiah is said to have said, "In days to come, in the mountain of God's house, shall be established as the highest of mountains and shall be raised above the hills. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction and the word of God from Jerusalem." Now that's the kind of place I expect salvation to come from. From impressive places that make big, impressive promises. From the tallest mountains, from the most ancient cities. From the tall building on Fifth Avenue, or the sparkling marble buildings of the United Nations, or the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Now, maybe that vision of a mountain, of the coming descent of a community of peace and justice, works for you. That's fine. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes that is the thing we expect and hope for and prepare for. That beloved community will descend as something to come down from the mountain of God's house. But to be honest, I'm feeling a little bit burned by the kind of promises we hear from Isaiah. A promise to make the people of Israel great again. A promise that if we just believe the promises of some high and powerful place, then we will have reason to hope. My whole family's history is a story of believing those promises and then seeing where they fall short. My rural Missouri grandparents believed that a new time was coming with the New Deal, and yet they were still poor. My father heard Martin Luther King proclaim his dream from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and I felt a moment of hope way back at the election of Barack Obama, and yet it's still controversial in some quarters to say that Black lives matter. And now my children's entire lives, Simon was born in 2015, their entire lives have been in the era of making America great again. But the greatness is reserved for those who have not been deported or jailed or killed. Now, I wish I had some easy solution, some good news, some vision of a mountain of peace and justice that could make everything all right. But I can't honestly say I think that right now. And if I did say that, I think you would know I was full of it. That kind of hope would be easy to recognize. It would be easy to be ready for. But it would be cheap hope. Which brings me to our third image of a thief. This image comes from the Christian New Testament, from the book of Matthew, from the Jesus that Matthew portrays as describing God's arrival, not as a descent from a mountaintop, but as coming like a thief in the night. Matthew was writing for a group of early Christians that had expected Jesus to return soon. But they were starting to lose confidence in the coming realm of God. That first generation believed that Jesus, the Son of Man, was returning soon and would bring with him an era of justice and peace. But he didn't return, at least not in a form they recognized. And when this gospel was written, the first generation after Jesus had started to die. That first group of people, so confident that the reign of God was coming in their lifetimes, died without Jesus' return. That time of peace and justice was delayed. They would read texts like that one from Isaiah. They shall beat their swords into pruning hooks, and would ask, yes, fine, great, but when? So I have to confess, I feel a little bit like that group of Jesus' followers that Matthew wrote for. I wonder if maybe I'm not alone when I read that mountaintop vision from Isaiah and find it hard to believe. What we have instead is this story of Jesus preaching in Jerusalem, at least as Matthew tells it, in the middle of all the kinds of places that supposedly brought hope. The mountains, the hills and temples, the religious and political authorities, the economic powers, and Jesus offers a different image of what hope looks like, of what we need to be ready for. He says, hope comes like a thief in the night. To those like me, disappointed by the failure to experience a coming age of justice and peace, this is a new way of seeing where we might look to. Hope is like a thief in the night. He doesn't offer a new mountaintop to look to. He says, Look on the ground. Don't renew our faith in the high and impressive places, in the authorities who still haven't brought salvation. That's a cheap high. Sooner or later, they will fail us. Sometimes they fail us because they break their promises, and sometimes they fail us because their promises were never meant for us. Our hope comes like a thief in the night, not because we've given up hoping that big things will happen, but because that's how big things have always happened. Down here, at ground level, with us. I was reading this week about the people who organized the Montgomery bus boycott. Not Martin King or Ralph Abernathy, not even Rosa Parks. It turns out, when you look closely and ask the right questions, a group of women, sick and tired of the sexual assaults that had been occurring on the buses of Montgomery, had been organizing and preparing the boycott secretly for 6 years. We tend to think of the civil rights movement as coming from a mountaintop, but it also came like a thief in the night. The people that live and proclaim salvation from the high and impressive places want us to think that that's where it comes from. From the Lincoln Memorial, not secret organizing in living rooms. From the Supreme Court, not a Stonewall riot. From the tycoon, not the undocumented worker or the union member. From oil companies, not indigenous people. From bishops, not bars. From pulpits, not pews. From high mountains, and not from you or from me. They want you to think that, and instead we are offered this image of a thief in the night. No, what this image, the thief in the night, what this offers us is a kind of hope that doesn't depend on those places. Which brings me back to that first image, the labor union. Not as a legal category or a party to a contract, but this relational network of actual workers. Because for a long time, workers organizing together in that way was not only difficult, it was illegal. For a long time, workers demanding their share was described quite literally as theft. And it has been repressed and punished accordingly. So when the Jesus that Matthew portrays offers a thief as an image of hope and salvation, an image of how it is that peace and justice arrive, it means maybe we can operate a little bit more like a gang of thieves, staking out and strategizing, stealing into wherever we can with the good news that the death and violence and control and corruption and exploitation happening in broad daylight is not all we have to hope for. It's a dangerous business, being a gang of thieves. The secret boycott organizers, the queer rioters, the undocumented workers, the native peoples, the people like you or me are not any safer for doing what they do. But when a mountaintop hope seems impossible, we can still be a gang of thieves, plotting, waiting, initiating new members, and learning to trust in a way that thieves, even more than mountaintop leaders, need to trust. And then we'll be ready for anything. Not ready in a way that depends on fragile frameworks of law or the whims of particular leaders or the narrow demands of a particular Olympic sport, but in a way that puts our hope in unexpected places, starting with each other. May it be so. Amen. Now please join in singing our hymn number 144, number 144 in your gray hymnal, Now is the Time Approaching.
Each week we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in the spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those that gave in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with Midnight Run. You can read all about that at midnightrun.org. Midnight Run is a volunteer organization dedicated to finding common ground between the housed and the homeless. Please, 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 it's a very important organization, and we do a lot with them. Please read on about that, midnightrun.org. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter, or by visiting our website, uuchudsonvalley.org. If you prefer, you may always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. Again, the words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. You know where the words are. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we come together again.
Friends, there is a lot to be ready for. I've gone this whole time and I haven't even mentioned that we're like 9 days away from an election. And that's just one of the things to be ready for. What will we do if the result is the one I think is good? Or what will we do if it's the result I think is bad? And what I want to say is, worry less about being ready for that, and worry more about being ready together with each other. Go in peace.